So welcome everyone. I appreciate you joining us for our last session of Open Ed Week here at SUNY. If you are not familiar with Zoom, I just want to remind folks that captions are individual. So if you would like those turned on, I have them on for the recording, but you can go to the More button in your Zoom toolbar, three dots. You can click on captions and then the button to show captions, and you'll be all set up. So with that, I would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I know that we have some friends joining us for Open Ed Week who are outside of the SUNY system, and we're also happy to have you join us as well. But that'll give us the context if we need to share things with you that maybe other folks on the call are already familiar with. So I'll take a moment to introduce our speaker today, who is Tori Matthews. Tori is currently the Senior Executive Director of Partnerships at Lumen Learning. And Tori has a doctorate in cell biology with a concentration in neuropharmacology from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. He has worked as an instructor, advisor, and mentor to students interested in pursuing careers in STEM fields. He was formerly an assistant professor at SUNY's Monroe Community College, where he taught introductory and general biology, ecology, molecular genetics, microbiology, and anatomy and physiology. Tori has a love for science and a passion for mentoring, and I've gotten to the pleasure to work with Tori over a variety of ways, and at MCC and through the OER services at SUNY. So I'm excited to see what you have to share with us today, Tori. I'll turn it
Thank
over to
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Aaron, I'm going to need you to share that bio with me. That made me
You
sound
betcha.
good. I don't really remember it, but
I crowdsource from the internet. I'm good like
that's it. Uh, Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk. My hope is what we talk about today resonates a bit with you and but really causes us to think a little bit more about open educational resources. And as I have been talking with faculty across SUNY and spending a lot of time trying to understand, I believe in progress. I believe I'm a research scientist by training. And so the question is, I'm always looking to see what questions are answered when we take time to reflect on what we have in front of us. And so a little bit, Aaron, tell you about my background, but I could tell you, one, Aaron, first, I still am getting to teach at MCC, so that's really good. And I'm a teacher at heart. I always have been. I'm also a person who is strongly passionate, and the thing that I'm passionate about is the thing that I typically follow. And so it led me away from MCC for a while I went and did some work with the a federal program that looked to help develop internships for students. I really enjoy mentoring and guiding students. And then it led me to Lumen. They gave me a call and see if I would be interested. The cool thing about my job is I work specifically with SUNY faculty and SUNY institutions, and that partnerships part is the most important piece to me in my title. I love building partnerships, but I would first say I'm a longtime user OER. Um, but I definitely understand a bit more as time is going on how OER and courseware kind of relate to each other and how the evolution of OER into like a courseware-based platform, how it's been impactful in my students' lives. And what I want to spend a little bit of time today is talking with you all about um, how the SUNY Lumen partnership has progressed. And I will start here. Presentation. Okay. Of course, today is not when it doesn't want to. So I may have to free roll this just in case it's not working. So my screen got smaller. There's my start show. Um,
Just
we've
hiding on you.
yep, it was hiding. We've
Looks
been
good
doing a
now.
lot of work. Okay, great. I'm glad you can see it. We've been doing a lot of work and thinking about how the partnership evolves with SUNY and Lumen. If you don't know much about it, I'm going to give a brief description in a second, but we're at a point now where when this first started, it was kind of about cost savings. What we've learned over time is free stuff that's not impactful stuff. it's not really worth a lot, right? You could go get a bunch of free stuff, but it doesn't necessarily make your life better. Now, the cool thing is that working with faculty who have a strong interest in OER, a strong interest in understanding student success, what we found is the real power behind the partnership is not just SUNY Lumen with this large system of schools coming together with a company where their missions align, but it's really the faculty members who are using the OER and the courseware and working with them to help understand what parts are impactful, what parts could be useful, where things can be improved. And so I'll spend a little time today talking about some of the work we've done alongside faculty, particularly focusing on gateway course success. There's huge initiatives across SUNY right now, across the nation, large school systems like California and so forth, where and Texas, where understanding how to effectively administer first year gateway courses, specifically across English and math, making sure students get through those first years successfully, how that impacts overall their ability to succeed in college and move on. So I'm going to start here. The mission of Lumen, right? High quality learning, accessible and affordable. That's what we want to do. SUNY already aligns with that. So this is a relationship that started long before I came along. I was using Courseware back in 2014, 2015. The partnership is a collaboration. And one of the things that the research shows you is like student success is highly embedded and foundational in faculty support. So our mindset is a little different. We want to help students, but the research says if you want to help students, you help faculty first. And the question we add along to that is how do you leverage technology and learning science in order to get this done? And I do want to emphasize the learning science. I am a scientist, so my degree is in cell biology. I did a lot of work in neuropharmacology, so I developed molecular treatment molecules that treated neurodegenerative disease. I believe in the science. And as I've embraced this more, there is a science to learning. It is something that is not well understood because most of the research is done around it has kind of been one off. But we have an amazing opportunity in our partnership with SUNY and Lumen, where there are ways that we can design research to look across a vastly broad system to understand what are the pieces that are really working. And if we understand that pieces are really working, they become best practices. How then do we disseminate that to other faculty, normally by integrating it into the courseware? We work with a lot of people. I'm going to point out a few here that I'm going to mention, like Rockland, Empire, Tompkins, the Dana Center, which is out in Texas, and Digital Promise. Digital Promise is a partner of ours that we work with in terms of evaluating the effectiveness of courseware. So when Lumen wants to do research about the effectiveness of courseware, the first thing we do is remove ourselves, right? Because then you don't want to have any bias. And Digital Promise kind of takes over there. And we've been very, very fortunate to find some private funders who actually pay for this work because they're interested in understanding how do we make our populate more educated. And this is something that's going around. Even when I was working with that federal program, one of the concerns was this, the fact that as a population in the United States, our education system is not reaching the heights that we need it to. And there are significant security concerns, especially when we start talking about militarily and so forth, when you don't have a populate that's educated properly. How do we do this? There's two main ways. There's courseware for students. Of course, faculty have to be the one to adopt it. And then there's professional development through a platform called Lumen Circles. Lumen Circles used to be kind of a standoff in that you could come in and learn about course redesign, belonging and inclusion. Recently, we got two AI circles, one on generative AI for introductory generative AI, teaching faculty like what is it, how can you embrace it? How can it be used? Where are the ups? What are some of the downs? And then there's a more advanced form of that circle. So become really popular. Right now, what we're finding to be most impactful is using Lumen circles as a lever for courseware. So you can also embrace a circle where you're doing it as a faculty cohort from your institution on understanding how to effectively use courseware. And this has been great when there's been opportunities across different institutions to scale. And the good news is both the courseware and the Lumen circles are covered through the SUNY Lumen partnership so that every SUNY faculty member, right, can enter a Lumen circle and there's no cost to you or the institution. And all of the courseware for students is included in that partnership as well. So there's no cost for that. So all of this is no cost to the institution because SUNY covers the cost for everything. This used to be something we were really, really proud of. So this is from last year, and this is data that SUNY gave us. Over the course of the partnership started in 2012. And the early adoption numbers were like 2,000, 3,000. These are numbers just tracking from 2017. So, and this is from last year. So we're well over $120 million in textbook savings for students because of what SUNY has invested in the partnership with Lumen Learning. And I want to be clear, when we say Lumen Learning, this is an umbrella. Lumen Learning is the person who I have the opportunity to help manage the relationships, but it includes the data center at UT Southwestern. It includes the online learning initiative out of Carnegie Mellon. We are one group. So any place where there are people like-minded in terms of giving access to quality course materials, we're working with them and you can access it via me, really. I'm the point person, but it's all available to you through the partnership. So nothing from OLI. There's no cost for you there either, or the data center. What is courseware? I think this group kind of understands it, but I'll sum up this slide very briefly. You can imagine OER and it being text that is openly available. You can remix, rewrite, revise it. Courseware takes that and adds a couple of pieces. One of them is the materials that faculty members need when they're moving into open educational resources. So all the digital instructional materials. First, that means you're going to get the lessons, assessments, multimedia, interactive activities that go alongside it. You're going to get all the slide decks. You're going to get a test bank and a guide, and I'll show you a little bit later, that kind of walks you through not only the material in the course, but helps you understand where the material is in case you want to realign it. Like if it's an introductory psych course or a college algebra course, we can look across the board at college algebra. We can look across the board at intro to psych and know essentially what the course learning outcomes are going to be, right? And it's there in the OER text. So we can take that, put it into the courseware, but you as a faculty member can go in and say, man, I kind of want to change the name. I don't really like it being called that. That's fine. You customize it however you want. Totally up to you. But the information is there. The next thing is it comes in platforms. So I'm going to talk about Ohm and Lumen 1 briefly. And the thing about those is they are integrated into your learning management system. So those tests you're giving, those assessments you're giving, if you want to, you can have those grades report right back to your LMS. And there's tools, and I'll show you the tools that help faculty members monitor your course. So I'll show you what the students have in terms of help keeping them on track and keep them organized. And then you show you places where faculty can leverage those same tools to look and see how an individual student is doing, to look and see how their class is doing overall. Most importantly, you can set up through the platform's messaging and you can put parameters on it that will reach out automatically for you. The student doesn't get, if you put a threshold on a quiz of 75 or 80% and they don't reach it, you can set up the messaging in the courseware so they will reach out to the student on your behalf, or it will do that and put together a list of students who haven't reached that threshold and it'll report it back to you. Ohm and Lumen 1. So online homework manager has been a staple in that platform for Lumen. It has gone through some significant updates. It's great. It's going to cover your math classes. It can also cover chemistry courses. If you know anybody using My Open Math, this one here is My Open Math with greater support. Lumen 1 is the new platform. It is coming in as we sunset another platform that we had called Waymaker. Waymaker is still there because we're in the process of converting courses to Lumen 1. Lumen 1 was developed more of the mindset of how do we support faculty even more? And I'll show you briefly kind of what it entails. But one of the cool things is with both these platforms, the ease at which you can access them. With Waymaker, we would have to deliver a cartridge, and that's fine. It's very easy to do, and you can upload it to your LMS. With Ohm, it's as simple as getting a password. So you click on a button, you say, I'm interested in Ohm, and then myself or Laura Murray We are the two who cover SUNY. Sends you an email with a password and a link. You log in, and OHM is there for you. You can run OHM through your LMS, or you can run it alone. I call it OHM alone. It's a standalone. So a lot of schools are using this for placement testing because it's all included underneath the partnership. So when you use it separate from your LMS, you can have students who are coming in who can use their Gmail account to sign into it. And they can take their placement exam, and then it'll let you know what they need to be placed in. And that's saving students a lot of money and also making it easy for some campuses who want to use it. And it's also a way to maximize the partnership. And Lumen One, um, there are 64 campuses, and I can say right now there are 57 campuses where you probably don't even know it, but you already have Lumen One. It's already in Brightspace. So when you say you want to use a course out of Lumen One, you reach out to us and we simply tell you, oh, this is where you go and click on the tool in Brightspace and then go click on the class you want. All you need is an empty or a practice shell in Brightspace and it just downloads. It takes about 10 minutes. Courseware for students. Let's look at their experience. I just want to point out a few things. I won't spend a lot of time here. But what I do want to focus on is kind of what Lumen One does, and it is a combination of years of development with Waymaker and research and OHM and understanding literature and data that's being published. It's built from a standpoint of what we call affirming co-requisites. So we have a lot of students we know who kind of go through transitional studies. There's a lot of prereqs. This takes into account that we know when students come in, they're not all in the same place. We also understand that how we approach helping them grow into the space where they could be successful can have impact, one on their motivation, their feeling of confidence in the class. And so with this model, what it does is every single course starts out with what we call background skills. And what it does is kind of gets a precursor for students. It's low stakes. It's not graded and included in the in the grade book, but it gives the students an idea of where are their deficits, how can we most effectively address them? And because it's courseware and everything's digital, you don't have to go look back through the book. It'll actually take you to learning opportunities and links that help you kind of shore up yourself in these areas. And what we have found is this, and you'll see the data in a second. Those small changes have a significant impact on student success rate. And by success rate, I just mean they're passing the classes at a higher rate. It's scaffolding for students. So all of the courseware is set up this way. There's a learn it section, an applied session, and then a self-check. And I'll tell you generally how it works. Think about the OpenStax textbook or the OER text. This is learn it. So some professors don't want to say learn it. They want to say read it. So read it. And if you click in here, what you'll see is actual text, OER text. And then as they read through and learn the concept, there's a little box underneath that says try it. So immediately they get an opportunity to try out what they just learned just to kind of help submit that idea. And then there's apply, and apply is all about practice. And this one switches over from reading to like, let's get some real world examples. So they might find out there might be a YouTube video attached to it. If it's a stat class, there might be some tables that are pulled out of, I don't know, retail or sports. Okay. And you get to apply a statistical idea that you just read about and learn it, and it gives you real world opportunity. And then you go take a self check, and the self check takes into account what your course learning outcomes are. And then it builds questions around it to see if students actually picked it up when they were reading it and then effectively applied it. And now they can apply it in a situation where it's not connected to these, but there are questions that you might use on the test. And the cool thing is the questions that they see here are not going to be the questions that they see on the exam because those test banks are separate. There's a tracker for students where they can, when they log in, they see basically a summary of what that module is talking about. And it lets them know, one, where are you in terms of completeness? How many readiness checks have you completed? How many self-checks have you completed? Let's go back and take a look at that background you needed to know. So let's reference that first little quiz you took to kind of see where you were. Study materials. This is called the cheat sheet. And I'm gonna tell you something that's significant about it. It is a chapter summary, but Lumen One was developed in conjunction with students. So we did beta testing. Rockland was one of the places we did beta testing. We also did it at Santa Ana College out in California. Students didn't like a chapter summary. I don't know why. What they did like was a cheat sheet. So, and it is this simple. We went in and changed chapter to cheat and summary to sheet, and then we put it at the front. And they are perfectly fine with that. A lot of opportunities for practice because we understand that practice, especially across things like stats, is what they wanted more of. So there's a lot of practice opportunities here. The other thing about the cheat sheet is it comes as a PDF, and that PDF also comes in different languages. Spanish right now is the one that's across the board because we work with some partners out of California where that's a requirement. So we can also take into account students who may not have English as a first language. It tells them about everything they've done in that learn it section, means and medians, measures and variability. They can click here and get a download list of one, to-do indicators, and it's all visual for them. And then all this is small and it fits on one page because we didn't want them to have to scroll, not much. It turns out when students have to move from page to page to get information, the effective delivery of that information is decreased. Um, Students get to choose when we're talking about statistical topics. Like I said, like maybe you want to learn about this topic, you learn about this topic and you want to learn how to apply it across business, or you want to learn, and maybe you like sports and you want to apply it across sports. You can choose your data set, right? Right. You want to talk about, whatever the topic may be. There's a way to study it, understanding how unionizing Starbucks could be a good or bad thing, streaming subscriptions, watching inflation. You pick your data set and it'll let you apply that concept based on something that you're already interested in. And it turns out with learning science, and it says so, that helps students connect to the information and it deepens learning. There's videos embedded. So it's not just them reading more. We try very, very hard to make sure that we are multimedia to give something to kind of break it up as they're working through it. I will also say for a number of these topics, especially across the statistics course, you are giving the lecture in class with the slide decks that are provided, or use your slide decks. We've also worked with subject matter experts in developing these courses. And so you will find places where those subject matter experts have also given the lecture. We recorded it and it's included in the courseware. So students have heard it from you, and then they can choose, listen, and watch another lecture from another professor who's explaining the exact same thing, but maybe from a different perspective. So I want to say this, courseware does not have to replace what you're doing. I always say to professor, it is there to assist you in delivering your course materials. So I can talk of many places where professors said, this is what I'm going with. I like it. And there's other places where I know professors like, I like it. I think it's a great study tool. So they've integrated it into their Brightspace shell. And they also have other information that's applied alongside it. And they use this for like homework. They do it a lot in math, a lot. I've seen it done in biology. And no matter how you want to use it, it is there as an option to you and it doesn't cost anything to the students. Lastly, in terms of the student part, instant feedback. So as soon as they go through a quiz or try it, if they get it right, green box, click. If they get it wrong, it helps them understand why they got it wrong, tells them what part they missed, and then it will refer them back to that material in the courseware so they can review it more. And I'm moving kind of fast, Aaron, so I want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. I don't see anything.
You're good so far.
Okay, cool. Now, that's the perspective from the student view. We're going to talk about the faculty perspective in a second. But the question is, does it work? And as a research scientist, this has been at the forefront of my mind ever since I decided that Lumen was probably a place I would land for a while and try to see if that success I was having in my courses, teaching with MCC and using OER is something that we could replicate on scale. And I'll show you this. So this is research from Digital Promise. Digital Promise is that partner I mentioned before. They're independent, nonprofit. In this case, the Gates Foundation provided a grant for Digital Promise to study the Lumen One platform side of Lumen Learning. So the 800 students, 35 courses across 19 institutions, 10 of them being minority serving. More than half the students identified as Hispanic or Latin, Black, African American, or another racially minoritized identity. And 66% of the household incomes were less than $60,000. And the results showed this. And I've had the opportunity to look at the data as a scientist, and I can tell you, I believe there would be a difference. I didn't know it would be as impactful as this, but we are happy that it is. Students are twice as likely to pass when using the courseware and the tools in Lumen 1 as compared to other courseware that doesn't have the supported tools and traditional publisher text. 2 times as likely to earn a C or better, and that's a pretty amazing p-value. What the data showed was that the faculty used more evidence-based practices, so things that have research has shown to be impactful for learning. And one of the reasons we think they were able to do it is because in a second I'll show you they are embedded into the faculty resource center. Everything you need is there. So you just need to click on it and think about how you want to use it if you want to use it. The students reported being more engaged. That time that they read in that learn it section where they read and then automatically have to do like a problem to them, that was impactful. So it wasn't like reading something in a textbook and then saying, what do I do with this later? I don't know what it means. Immediately they had an opportunity to apply it. They perform better on nationally normed exams. So we're not just talking about what's happening in the classroom, but overall, the learning shows that you can take this group of students who've had this interaction with the courseware, give them a nationally normed exam, and they're performing higher. And the impact increased with each term. So in in short, you use it one semester, you do a good job. If you use it 2 semesters, your results increase. You do an even better because you're becoming more comfortable as a faculty member. The longer you use it, the larger that gap in student success grows for those that are not using courseware versus those that are. This is I show this as an example of what we can do. That was digital promise. But because of how the courseware works, first of all, at Lumen, we can't see any student information. Right? It is courseware. So what you can do if you are an institution is you say, listen, Tori, we're very interested in understanding, just overall, we got 19 sections of stats or something like that. And we just kind of want to see how students are performing with the courseware, particularly in a certain region. Like, one college reached out to us and they wanted to know specifically for a college orientation series course, how are students performing in the financial literacy part? Because they had a grant to study like what's the impact of teaching students who come from impoverished or marginalized backgrounds how to effectively manage their finances. And so they used that section from the courseware and the quiz for kind of like a before and after. And they simply call us and say, can you pull it all together in a spreadsheet, send it to us? It has a number on it as an identifier. And then they take that number and the identifier, and then they can link it back to a student at their school because they have the enrollment data. We don't. So we did something like that along the line with Nassau in an introductory site course. And just kind of quick summary, students who used the courseware versus the free or commercial materials without courseware showed an 8-point gain in their grade. And that's just the tools, right? It did not require more from faculty. It was just the tools that were already included in the courseware. Our reach, so it's like 10 plus years. And I want to say the footprint, this is from last year, so that doesn't include fall 24 or spring 25. And there were 410,000 enrollments and 3,000 faculty members engaged so far. And I just want to point out, when you start talking about growth, 10 years ago, there weren't 20 and 30,000 adoptions. So what we're seeing is as we're scaling, that's 410,000. This past year, fall 24, spring 20, fall 24, spring 25, there were 76,000 enrollments. So this number is gaining fast. We got to be close to 500,000 now, including this past fall. Um, a lot of the work places where the partnership has been engaged are community college and 2-year colleges, but there's also university centers that are starting to pick up. We have university centers that are starting to pick up. We have large scale adoptions at Stony Brook. We have departmental adoptions across statistics and calculus at UAlbany. We have departmental adoptions across statistics at UB. So it's growing now that more people know about it, and there's more data coming out talking about how effective it is. This one here in the green bar graphs are showing some of the options for circles professional development. If we look at it over time, active learning circle has been one of the most largest ones for faculty enrollment. Belonging and inclusive teaching, evidence-based teaching. These two down here, teaching with generative AI and advanced in generative AI, that one's growing fast. So it's clearly up past like 150 to 200 now. This one matters to us most because if you look at the research, it says one thing and it's consistent. No matter what you are measuring in terms of impact on student success, um, prior academic preparation, high school that they attended, students' demographics, course attributes, the number one thing that impacts student success is the instructor, which is why we're really leveraging circles as a way to help faculty members understand the nature of courseware, how to use it, along with courseware adoptions, because the faculty make the difference. Let's look at how we can help faculty. So these are faculty facing tools. In this same courseware that you're using, when students are looking at how the information has been organized, when they're looking at a sheet that kind of shows them what it is they need to do, and it's been compacted so they can see everything at once. We've taken the time to think about how we do this, how we apply this effort to helping faculty just as much, because faculty are facing a lot of challenges. And with a lot of regulations, coming down really from the federal government, state government, about academic momentum that's happening across SUNY right now. There's a big push to understand how do we get these gateway courses aligned so that students are finishing in that first year, particularly as it relates to English and mathematics. And at the same time, how do we deal with these facts? Faculty overload, especially post-COVID, a lot of people left, and then some of these lines are just not being replaced. Limited time for feedback. Things are moving quick. So faculty are doing more, not just teaching courses, but on committees and so forth. You know, you know, how can we make this streamlined, but also effective in a way that you can get an idea of messaging quickly? Students, they're facing a lot, and we have to take that into account because it has an impact on how successful they are. And us being aware of that and finding ways that we can leverage technology to help them is a good thing. High stakes. We don't have a lot of margin for error in some of these classes. And momentum is a big deal for degree completion. If you're not having a successful first year, the data shows it has an impact. And there's heavy instruction without support. We have to teach a lot of information. But as faculty members, we don't always have the time to give the level of support we want. We can leverage technology and courseware to do that. So for faculty, it starts with resources. When you log into the faculty resources session inside of Lumen 1 or inside of the courseware, you find these things there consistently. And that is going to be, sorry, my box is in the way. Here we go. Let me shrink this down. Okay. Teaching with your statistics class. If you click on here, and whether it's math or English, in here are all the slide decks, links to the test bank. If there's any videos in here, there's links to the videos that are here. So you can use things not just where we put them, but you can take it and send it to students, and you can build your own questions around them if you want. How to use Lumen 1 effectively, because again, faculty have to learn this too. What are implementation guides? They're there. Any tutorials, a FAQ section, and a little button where you can click to say, I need more support. And then there's a whole system here that looks at evidence-based teaching practices. These have been verified. You don't have to go searching the web for them anymore. We've already put them in here. And how do you want to use them? Are you looking to be more supportive, challenging, organized, belonging, varied, kind of a mixture of the two? Click on it and it will give you the tool and you can choose to use it. And the only thing I want to say, we are in this push for this April deadline for accessibility. I want to say that all the courseware that we have that is offered through this partnership has already met or exceeded the guidelines for April. And we were there more than a year ago. Lumen 1 is WCAG 2.2. There's no one asking for that right now. We did it because a part of the mission is to make sure it's accessible. And when we say accessible, not just meaning in terms of cost, you can get it to everyone, but whatever challenges you may have, and there's still an opportunity for you to learn. What do these instructor guides look like? It's a table of contents, all the learning outcomes, a summary of all the modules, all the resources, and these come in like a Google Doc. So these are all links. When you click on these things, you don't have to get them from us. They're linked to Google and you can download them, use them how you want. Discussion-based teaching, evidence-based activities, ready-to-use prompts, and each one comes with timing estimates, right? And if you need to teach the class completely online, we give you options for online variations. And this is from teachers talking to us. This is faculty saying, well, this will work better in an online class. And so we make the adjustment. This is also interesting because compared to traditional publisher, you need something to change, it may take a while. You put in the support board button, we know that this is constantly evolving. And the cool thing is we hear from you teachers. It's a good idea. We update it, and the nature of Lumen 1 away from Waymaker into Lumen 1, and like we are with Ohm, is that it is real time, which means you may have downloaded it to your shell already, but it's linked back through your LMS. So when we update the course, your LMS updates too, and your course will update too. Specifically, it's like a slide deck so that you can have that information. You can get those same insights the same way that students are viewing how they're doing in the class on that summary sheet. You can see how your class is doing, right? Click into a module you want to know, describing data numerically, you know, um, what are some skills that students should review? It'll tell you, hey, 13 students are having a problem with evaluating expressions that contain absolute value. 4 students are having a problem with reading, interpreting a dot plot. So they're probably getting that, right? That part they understand. You can keep track of all students at the same time, or you can see it based on individual students. It also comes with a summary sheet for all your students where you can see, okay, who struggled. So look at Jesse here, or Danny, or Lila, the quiz scores, the date they took the quiz, what happened, where did they have mastery? Where did they have a misunderstanding? I also want to point on this part here. This is something that you can collect from students at the beginning of class. There's a little form they can fill out in the courseware that'll say, okay, what's your name? Daniel Romero. What do you prefer to be called? Danny. It also asks questions like, what year are you in school? You could share, like, are there any things happening in your life you think that might impact you? What are your pronouns, right? And all this is there, but at the same time, everything that comes in from the school, their official name, all that's still there too. So you don't have to go back and match things up later. Like I say, you want to do outreach to those students. You don't have to go and email them outside of the courseware. You can click email student here, and it's automatically linked back to your email address because you set this up. And you can email intervention emails right here, right? They come with automated messages that have templates that are already there, but you can customize the templates. And they can be time sensitive. The student could take that quiz at 2 o'clock in the morning and not meet that threshold, and that message is coming. And it also will create a list of people that you can reach out to. The messaging part is critical. We have shown when we've done this research with different campuses, if messaging is turned on, that also increases statistically the likelihood of success for a student in that class. And again, all of this is available to all SUNY faculty and students at no cost. And the place you find it is oer.suny.edu. And I'm going to jump out of this for a second because I want to actually show it. If you just type in oer.suny.edu, you're going to come to this page. It is hosted by SUNY OER Services, which is our partner in this work. They did a pretty cool thing about a year ago. They did interviews on campuses with faculty who are using OER. Some of this is do it yourself. Some of this is courseware. When I say courseware, you're going to hear from faculty who are using it. Lumen courseware, faculty who are using OLI courseware. So if you get an opportunity, take a look and listen to some of their interviews. It's really impactful. They talk a lot about how, it can be a change up front, right? And change sometimes is challenging, but they talk about how the impact the impact that it's had on students, and you won't see anyone who has regretted it, of course, because they're giving an interview. But these are people who, like most teachers I know, really just want to make sure students are successful. And they're talking about how this doesn't, and beyond the course information it's delivering, the fact that it doesn't cost students any money, or you can decrease. So even if you had them buying a textbook that was $150, and there was another textbook that's a 20 or 30, if the courseware can replace the textbook that costs 150, then let's do that, because they don't have a lot of money sometimes. Paying the 35 is fine. I tell faculty, it is not meant to replace what you do. It's meant to supplement. If it can help, you know, this is one of my favorite, Luciano Medina. He has one of the most amazing quotes when I talk to him about courseware at This Is You Albany, where they have departmental adoptions across the calc series and stats. And he said this to me, and I thought it was so impactful. He said that the textbook is not for the professor, it's for the student. And that's how we think about it. And for the student, this textbook that doesn't cost them $150 is better for them. So a faculty member who are the experts in this field, how can we adapt? There's one of us and we're teaching hundreds of students. We don't have to buy a text for 150. The publisher will send it to us. But they're earning a lot of money off these students who a lot of times are in positions where they don't have a lot of money. So it's a strain on them, and ultimately it could impact their ability to be successful. What I want to focus on is in the bottom. You can learn more about circles here and offerings through SUNY CPD. Other content here, if you're still interested in developing DIY versions of OER, but it's ready to adopt catalog. That's what I want to click on, and it will load eventually. These are all the courses that have been approved by SUNY, all right, as deemed courseware quality that can be used across any of the classes here that are listed at any campus on SUNY. And if you scroll down, there's a lot of them. There's a lot. You'll see Waymaker, OLI. If you scroll up to the top, you'll see in the math courses, so a little bit further up. Lumen 1, you'll see OWN. Everything here is a matter of clicking a button. Let me pick up bio course because I'm a biologist. This one's still in Waymaker, but still good. Biology hasn't changed much. Yeah, so let's just pick up macroeconomics because it's here. When you click on one of these tabs, going to give you a couple of different options. There is an explore the course form. You can come in here, put in your first, last name, any pertinent information, your campus, and so forth. What do you want to do? Review course materials, try materials in Brightspace, and then click on the course that you're interested in or multiple courses. You go down and hit submit, and then it's going to come to myself or Laura, and we'll reach out to you. If I go back for a second, it also shows you which textbooks these are based off of. So this is based off of the economics textbook in OpenStax, where you can view online. You can download the PDF. Students don't have to buy this. And if they want a printed copy, you don't have to have them go to the bookstore because they can order it through OpenStax or order it through Amazon for like 35 bucks. Or you can go get it printed at, I don't know, FedEx or Kinko's, and actually turns out that it's actually more expensive to do it there than it is to order it. I think I'm running out of time, so let me sum this up. I'm gonna go back here to the slideshow. So I showed you the website. I showed you the button. Some of them you click on is going to have view content and outcomes. Sometimes it's in the website, but every course has this. So if you're worried about course learning outcomes, there is, when you click on this button, and it's available in all of the courseware, there's a spreadsheet that comes with each of the course learning outcomes that's covered. And then you can take that if your wording is a little different and align it to your course learning outcomes. And you'll say, well, why is that useful? Well, at Monroe Community College, it's useful because of middle states when you have to go through accreditation. In addition to that, because it comes with a test bank, each of the course learning outcomes is linked to a specific course learning outcome ID. Those are linked to questions in the test bank. So when you want to go and design a test, you can go in and search by that course learning outcome, and it will show you which questions fall into that category. So you can pick from those questions for your exam. And when it's regenerating questions for students to answer during the process of using the courseware, based on the current course learning outcome that's linked to that topic, it'll pull questions from the test bank. So that's what they're practicing from. Um, Supporting what works. This last slide before we kind of close out. Teaching practices that increase impact. Right? Students, the research shows deep faculty-student relationships are impactful. Affirming identity, who you are and why you're in this space, and connecting learning to real life. That's a lot to pull from people, faculty, when we're doing all the work that we're doing. But those little tools like the messaging and so forth, and asking them what name they be preferred by and what are you dealing with outside of life, it makes a difference. Taking those tools and integrating them to lighten faculty workload, supporting student learning, engagement, and belonging, particularly in how material is presented. That co-requisite model really works well. And yeah, there's some things you don't know when you're telling the student, but that's okay. It's okay not to know them. Here's how you can go and learn more about them. And sometimes that little nudge is all they need to get over the hump because that early success and then that continual co-requisite model is what help lead them to success ultimately. And we create a space for collaboration. I'm okay if you tell us there's something you prefer. We're okay with that. I mean, we don't work in a bubble. We understand that though we may design it, the majority of the people who will be talking with you from Lumen Learning were also teachers outside of the developers. But the people who are working on you with adoption efforts, they were teachers before. So we get it. And I don't won't go into some of the other stuff we could talk about, but you see this on campus sometimes when there's faculty members doing the work and then other people on campus who are trying to tell faculty member how to do the work. If you want to talk about the partnership, you want some more details, if you want courseware demos, institutional initiatives, courseware setup and integration support, all that comes with the partnership. And you can always, one, reach out in terms of the courses to oer.suny.edu. Look through the courses, click on that sheet, that try it form, fill it out. We'll get back to you. And if you have any general questions, like Tori, can you come talk to our faculty members? Or we have this initiative going on campus. We're really thinking about course redesign. We're thinking about success rates in our gateway courses like English and math. Can we talk about some ways we might work together? You email me. And the easiest way to remember this, I'm Tori, Tori, at lumenlearning.com. And if you can't find me there, Aaron knows how to find me. A lot of people know how to find me, or you can just Google Tori and Lumen and I should pop up. And I will stop there. I can stop
Thank you,
there.
Tori. I do know how to find you. I did put your email in the chat for folks,
Cool.
just in case. And I've been putting links in along the way to Lumen, the resources you're sharing, and our OER website. If
Awesome.
anyone has questions or comments, or I'd be interested to know also if anyone is using any of the courseware that Tori mentioned. Who is on the call is involved in OER on your campus? I know, Ben, you also support faculty. I'm looking through the introductions just to see what everyone's role is because I'm curious about how this applies to the work that you do. So Sarah coordinates assessment at SUNY Poly. Joseph is an adjunct and teaches Japanese language, world religions, and world history, and has recently submitted a grant proposal for an OER world religion course pack. So that's awesome. Ben, senior ID at SUNY Canton. Great. So Joseph says in the chat, Tori, not using any of the courseware yet, but recently applied for the first grant. So still early on with the project and figuring out how to put it all together. That's
So
great, Joseph. Gives you a lot of food for thought. Yeah.
I'll say this to you, Joseph. There are people who are coordinating to develop new OER. I will say that when you're doing this, if you can find others that are also interested in doing this type of work, it's great to have a partner to come alongside you. And once the work is advanced enough, as a part of this partnership, I mentioned OLI. So OLI is in the active phase right now. They just created a new platform called Taurus. and they are developing new courses in Taurus. And so, if there comes a point where you think there's enough material there and you're ready to understand how do we put it into a courseware format, we're going to use it beyond where we are at our institution and want to make it easily accessible to a lot of SUNY faculty. Courseware platforms have become a way to do that most effectively.
That's great, Ben. I do know Matt. I always forget the connection there. Yep, Matt Nichols works with faculty for Lumen. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, Tori. I really appreciate this, and I
My
can
pleasure.
use this presentation to share with faculty who approach me about these kinds of questions as well. So
Hmm.
this is a great foundation for them to understand all of what's available to them through our partnership.
Yeah, I think this year is going to be pretty amazing. So coming down pipe, I think we have 24 campuses who've signed up to work with us on a course redesign for English and math. And
Oh,
that's going
great.
to be released come February and next spring because a lot of them are in this mode where they're trying to understand, academic momentum and, just I don't know how many people on the call kind of know about it, but there's coming to a place where there's a lot of kind of eyes on how successful students are in that first year because a lot of data shows that first year is impactful. And so there's 24 campuses that we're going to be working with, and it's an amazing mix of some large four-year institutions, a lot of two-year institutions. And so I think as that work happens over the next year and people start to hear more about it, SUNY's actually heading it up and we're working with them on it. It's going to be I think we might be having some more. It's hopefully it's going to serve as a template. We're working with 24
Yeah.
campuses to design templates that kind of work for both. And so hopefully that's something that'll become available to other campuses and they can kind of pull it in. And we're working out the kinks right now.
Right. No, that'll be a great model, I think, for other campuses to adopt and adapt. So thank you for that. Thank you for the
Okay.
work that you're doing.
Trying to help.
You do, you do. I'm going to close this out here. Just put some links in the chat for folks to our online or our OEW website. If you want to bookmark that, you can always get back there for recordings, but there's also a link to our recording playlist on YouTube for Open Ed Week. We also have past Open Ed Weeks there as well if you're looking for other presentations on open education in general that you can browse. We do have a survey that helps us with our planning every year for Open Ed Week. And then I just put a link to the OE Global website. They are the sponsors of Open Education Week, and they have several more sessions today as we all close out this exciting week. So thank you for your time and your attention, and always to Tori for everything you have to share with us. Take care, everyone.
What's happening?